really easy. I actually purchased online a book, one of your guys' textbooks. Making Accelerated Cleanups a Reality is the website that I found mentioned under. One of the chapters is managing strategies for managing public process. Number one, streamline your decisions. For instance, a response to comments to the Accelerated Cleanups program from the public was, wow, we didn't know anything about this program. We didn't get a chance to comment on it. The official Federal Department of Energy response to the public singular comment about we didn't get a chance to respond to this was, wow, we streamlined our decisions and we didn't get a chance to tell you. When our processes allow enough time for public input, then we certainly will let you know about it and encourage you to come and speak. So, you guys certainly have blown the public notification process. We've been cut out of the comments. I can't believe what I've heard in terms of your risk decisions are going to be made after the public comments period. I would say halt the public comment period right now until 30 days after you declare your risks, your risk calculations. Write that one down. 30-day public comment delay until after you announce your firm risk calculations. Because another chapter in that textbook that I bought about making accelerated cleanups a reality was recalculating risk. Another chapter in my textbook about making accelerated cleanups a reality was internalizing decision-making process. I suppose that breaking a 16-year-old memorandum of agreement with the EPA would fall under that. It's our decision-making process again. So, everybody, the reason I bring it up is because you are watching the last winking cancer cell of responsibility that the Department of Energy has to us up here. This is our very last chance to talk about this. Phil, would you please explain ALARA? No, because this is another example of as low as reasonably achievable. You guys make the decisions, start to finish. You must do a full site environmental impact statement. You must clean up to the highest EPA standards. You must have independent testing. And you must disclose all of your risk calculations long before we are expected to make our comments. 30 days after you disclose that. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Thompson. I live on Woolsey Canyon. I had thyroid cancer and my thyroid removed. I don't know if you are aware of it, but about 1.5 miles from Rocketdyne, 32 acres went up for sale, about 1/4 mile from where I live. It was tested by an independent company, the same people that did send it. Not for all the chemicals or contaminants that were found at Rocketdyne, and I'm not sure of the reason for that, but certain chemicals were tested for, and exceedingly high radiation was found. Every time, I want you to consider this about leaving it alone or lessening up the standards. Every time it rains, it comes down on us, down below them. Now, while I may not be valuable to you, I'm very valuable to my grandchildren. And every one of us are valuable to somebody. You have a responsibility to clean this up. Forget about advertising on television. Take that money and put it in the ground and in the water and meet the standards regardless of who's president. You have an obligation to us. How do you sleep at night? And where's the morality in this? Forget about Bush and what the law says. What about your personal law in here? Your responsibility. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris Rose. I was here last time, I guess it was in February. And I was really excited. I got a couple of postcards in the mail, and I thought, God, I actually had some impact. They actually sent a postcard out. Maybe the people in the West Hills community actually found out something about what was going on here. But then I called you, and you said it went to 4,500 people. It went to the people that already know about the site, that are already concerned, not to the whole West Hills community or Simi Valley or whatever, which, from what I read, could be 500,000 people. As I look around this room, I see maybe 50 people, and a lot of them are bureaucrats or whatever, people that work for Boeing. So, you know, I represent a lot of people. And then I call and I say, okay, what kind of notification did we get, or did it go to the general community? And I get an email back, and it's got a photocopy, and it's a photocopy of the disclosure notice. And the disclosure notice is this little tiny thing in the LA Times in the classified section. I actually went to the LA Times. I tried to find it online. I emailed LA Times, and they said it must be an ad. So it was in the classified section as an ad, and a little tiny disclosure. Well, when I get the LA Times, the first thing I do is I recycle the paper. I recycle the classified ads because I'm not buying a car, I'm not renting a house or anything, so I recycle that section. I never would have seen this as a public notification. If I expected a public notification, I would have expected it in the front section or in the California section, and I would have expected it to be, you know, a quarter of the newspaper size and not this little tiny thing.
I'm Guillermo Gonzalez, Senator Dianne Feinstein's office. The last meeting that we were here, myself and Congressman Gottlieb, Representative Brian Miller was also here. I asked a question about when we could expect a date regarding the conclusion of radioactive contamination. And so we would like an answer to that question. Does anybody care to answer?
Yes, I'll go ahead and I'll answer that question. But the one thing I do want to say is that, you know, we were trying to find balance between trying to answer questions and trying to get public comments for the records. But I worked today on a response to the senator for a letter that you recently wrote to us asking us the very same question. And what it says is that we are planning to complete the radiological cleanup at the site by September of 2008.
You say that's the end. When would be the earliest that you could do it?
What Dan asked, when would be the earliest?
When would be the
The latest is September 08. If you were fast, what would be the earliest it would be done?
That really is about the fastest that we can get done is set by September.
Well, then that can't be the latest.
Now, this is assuming that we get funding that we need to perform the cleanups. If we have no funding, obviously it could be much longer than that. But this is assuming that we have the funding, we can be done by September of 08.
You said you can be done by. That's the end.
It's the earliest.
Is that the earliest? You just told us that was the latest.
But he asked when could we be done with the work. Now, I mean, I'm not an expert on all the maneuvering and things that are going on. I'm trying to answer you honestly.
Well, that's why I wanted to ask this. If you get the money, what is the earliest that you would be finished and the latest you would be finished if you get the money you're requesting?
If we get the money, we can't be done, schedule we have to would be done by September of 08 if we get the funds. It depends on when you get the funds, Dan. If we don't get it until, obviously if we don't get the funds until late in 08, then we'll have to.
That's not my question. If you get in the normal cycle of funding, in your next fiscal year budget, you've requested $13 million. If you get that, but the bill comes out in the normal time, what is the earliest you will have finished or the latest that you would have finished if the money comes in the normal appropriation time?
We have requested additional money to come this year between now and October 1st.